Has online dating benefited at all any of us in the last 10 years? Yeah. How toxic is it? Is it as bad as toxic masculinity or toxic relationships? Or is it just Tinder being toxic itself? We're going to talk about that here on this full-length edition of Depraved and Debaucherous. Thanks for joining me for D&D. This is KOP, King of Podcasts, here with you. The website is ddradio.live. That's where you can find everything that's going on with the program. And the latest psychology headlines that I always think are very important that you all know about. Obviously, you know that this show is up there with the video. The latest video of the program you can find right now at ddradio.live, and also the latest episodes of the podcast, which you can find on audio version. First of all, ddradio.live, and you can find the ways to subscribe through Apple, Amazon, Google, Spotify, wherever you find your podcasts. They're all there for you. And if you want to reach out to me, you can also go to the bottom of the website, ddradio.live. You can actually email yours truly. You want to go ahead and, ask me like an advice column. You have questions, comments, whatever. I really encourage all of you to go ahead and reach out that way. And I will read back messages that I get on that email, as long as they're not spam. Anyway, I got a few stories to bring up here that really brought things up. Yes, Tinder, 10 years old. So just to be accurate, the 10th anniversary, I can't believe it got to this point. But you know what? With everything that's happened of online dating and the dating apps, okay, it's all been out here and it's amazing. So September 12th marks the 10th year of Tinder. And some people have talked about it, and they've made their comments here. And how's the app changed the way we date? And there have been experts that have talked about this. One relationship science expert, Paul Brunson, talked to The Independent and says that the way that Tinder has changed romance has been quite a bit of negative and quite a bit of good. I don't even know what good he's talking about. He says that they have made online dating mainstream, and that's something I really happen to see. No. Well, but this is not dating. It's hookup culture. Tinder amplifies hookup culture. That's all it did. We all learned that. It took the components of Hot or Not, which was an app that was around for the day, and you graded people. But now, you don't have to grade anyone. It's a pass or fail. Like, you're not even giving a grade to somebody or a chance that somebody might get a chance to be seen. Like, there was something to be said about Hot or Not when they gave you a rating, and that people can give you a certain rating, and then you had a chance to meet somebody off of there as a result. But that doesn't happen now. And it's pretty interesting that when you look at where things are, I mean, look, there's a thing about the Tinder culture that's come across. The fact that we now have the phrase toxic masculinity becoming such a more apparent phrase. We'll talk about that in a moment. And the other part about femininity kind of like, being taken another direction, where women are wanting to be more like men or have masculine traits, work ethic, success, entrepreneurship, but are they sacrificing too much for them to be a mother, to be, a wife, to lose some of the things of having the co-op of a relationship so that you have two incomes, two people together in harmony, soulmates living together. That's all being taken away. And then you look at the fact that men, because of the original part of men and women not being together, going back to broken marriages and a lot of divorces, this is just an ongoing cycle. So you have children that are parents of that are children of divorce, following the trend of like, well, I'm not going to get divorced and I'm not going to go into some relationship. And, if I'm going to be in a relationship, all these demands have to be met. I need to have this kind of money, this kind of status, this kind of whatever. It's like no one's thinking about putting your forces together, joining together as a team. No, nobody wants a team. Women don't want a team. Women want support, because the idea is that the health and beauty industry, the things that can be done to enhance and create beauty for a woman, this false sense of beauty, by the way, if it's not natural, I can't really judge or evaluate how much more beautiful a woman is with makeup or not, or with lashes, or with BBLs, or with enhancements. Because those are enhancements, okay? That's what they are. Now, Brunson goes on to say that dating apps open you to a world of possibilities. Quote, right now, online dating is the number one source for meeting a significant other. You also have a number of people who are not interested in committed relationships. It could be a casual relationship. It could be a hookup, quick sex. This app does a phenomenal job. Well, he's a fan. Probably paid for by Tinder. But I disagree here because in real life still should be the best way to meet a significant other. But we have created things where if women were shy or they were not, they were apprehensive about being approached. Now, part of the reason I will say, it all comes together. All right. I'm not one of those people that's trying to act red pill here and just say, well, women are the prize and you need to stop acting like that. And they need to, fall in line with men. No, I'm not saying that at all. And don't think that for a second. I think what I'm saying is still quite progressive, but still very much based in reality. The idea is, if a woman is already given bad leverage, okay, by not having a father in her life, a role model, a love, a compassion, a person that gives a man that is, of your blood, that raised you from a girl to a young woman with love, compassion, tenderness, completely emotionally supporting you, financially putting you through, and giving you as much as they can in order to spoil you or to make you feel loved, to make you feel wonderful, to make you feel valued and honored. Because for women to feel that it's just the vanity of their beauty that is the one thing that they need to be honored, no, it has to be what you have on the inside. But I understand as well that there are women out there that strive to be the higher end of women, okay? The ones that might be tens, the ones that you might see on in Miami on a street in Miami Beach, or somebody at the club, the ones that will get in the door and will get bottle service and will get all the perks, okay? And guys will be, falling over to talk to, okay? The ones that get to be in like music videos, or the ones that get to be models or whatever, okay? For those women that are being left out of that because they're subpar to the eyes of Hollywood, to the eyes of the people in the beauty industry that put you down, but they more than happy to go and take your money for health and beauty products, for the surgeons and for the people out there that are happy to take your money to get services done to you. All right. You have those people manipulating you and you don't know any better. And what about the guys that were raised without fathers and had the mothers take care of them without a fatherly instinct for a man to get mentorship and to be told how to be a man, how to be a gentleman, how to court a woman, how to care for a woman, how to love a woman. Maybe even told on how you're supposed to approach sex with a woman. But when guys don't get that, and guys are emotionless, and they're just playing video games and they're out, hanging out with maybe not even hanging out with friends. But you can see, like, there's some kids that are probably very introverted when it comes to high school and everything else. They're watching anime. They're watching, superhero movies, whatever. And these guys, in some cases, might have more hair product than the women and might be dressed up and take more time to put themselves together than women. And because they are, the guys that might be in this phase, okay, that we used to call it metrosexual. Well, that's gone out the window. Men are trying to channel feminine energy. They're trying to create themselves more appealing and much softer to a woman because they think, well, you can't look gruff and muscular and have a certain look. You have to, definitely clean yourself up more. You use, not foundation. You use things to take care of your skin, your hair. You might get manicures. You might look for clothing that's just a certain level of fashion, or just the way you look, where you're wearing skinny jeans and you're wearing a shirt that might be just covering your body. It's like what a woman would wear, a guy's wearing. Okay. And then these guys will be approached by women because they're, in a way, pretty themselves. These guys, like, you see that all the time. Pretty faced, fresh faced boys with like the curly hair. They got the hair all coiffed. And like, it's not like a simple haircut. And it's not a simple like regimen for hygiene or how, a person puts themselves together. Like, they're taking enough time like a woman. And then they start acting out like a woman when the normal thought of like a man being with a woman, the woman is not going to respond to that man in the same way if it was a masculine alpha male guy that was respectful to the woman. Okay. But that's not happening now. Instead, these guys, they uncover traits that are toxic, that are narcissistic, unfaithful, manipulative, controlling, and abusive. And when they get to the point of being abusive, then they take out their frustrations of why they are not a proper man to these young, beautiful women. And then these young, beautiful women are scarred emotionally. And also, what about the fact that if there's guys, a woman that doesn't have a father, a young woman doesn't have a father, what about the fact that there might be those cases where in their very home where they live, they might have been tortured because of the fact that someone, a family member or a member of a friend of the family, of whom they were not protected by their father, whether it was through neglect or it just happens. There are many cases where I'm telling you, there have been women that have said that they have been molested or raped at a young age. And you can see it on them if you're paying attention closely. You can find that out, especially if you find them on these websites, on these dating apps, hookup culture, sugar daddies. That's why they're there. That's what the reason for this show is all about. And the guys that have put them in this condition, then they're left to be young women that eventually the one thing they can do is magnify their beauty and realize how beautiful they are. But then they can also be dissuaded. They can be manipulated themselves, not just by men, but by all the things they're learning. And then they get this idea that empowerment and independence, when they feel like men have ostracized them, men have failed them. And then they go ahead and consume the prophecy of feminism about what women say. You can be independent. You go, girl, slay queen. You believe that shit. There's a point where you can absolutely have your control of what you're doing with your body, with your life. Absolutely. But when you can't meet yourself even somewhat halfway with a guy or with a partner, by the way, because remember, it's not just men. It can also be if you're gay or queer, LGBTQ, because if you are the feminine looking for a masculine, femme with femme is going to create friction because of the hormonal nature. The same thing goes with women going after women. It's going to be the same thing unless you have a woman that's just that expresses such dominant, masculine features and traits. That's where I think usually works, because I always think it's the one thing where it doesn't matter what kind of relationship it is. There has to be someone that's masculine and somebody that's feminine. One person's going to play the other role. That's how the relationships will work. And it doesn't matter if it's guys or girls, together, same sex or opposite sex. But this all comes down to this. Tinder and apps like Tinder are the downfall. It's the trash that is left behind. They are amplifying and they are encouraging the ongoing behavior of the decline of marriage, the increase of divorce, and the increase detriment to young, beautiful women everywhere. I've been on Tinder so many times, and I subscribed to it a couple times. Don't get me wrong. I just finished a premium subscription. And sure, I could put myself on the passport mode and look at thousands of women that I swiped right on. Thousands of beautiful, pretty privileged, beautiful women. And you see the pictures that are on there where, oh, look here, I got this great plate of this restaurant. I went behind this car. I went and traveled here, there, traveling pictures, all these things that don't matter to men. They matter to you. I don't know how much value it's going to be to you after a while, because when you are experiencing so much of your life, then what is there left to fulfill? And that's where some women really realize, oh, well, the real meaning of life for a woman is to be a mother, to procreate. Now, it doesn't mean you need to do that. I'm not having anyone subscribe to the traditional route of dating. I'm not saying you got to do that, but there's been people that did that for a long time. Traditional man and woman married, having kids, 20s, going into their 30s, being, bringing their kids up and having a great life together with their kids. That still happens today. But then you look at what's going on here and saying, man, at least I give the chance for women that are single mothers. They have to show compassion and love to their kids, unless they're not good mothers. But there's going to be some single women out there, single moms, that, I feel horrible for, because part of the thing is they feel like they're inferior because of what happened to them with the man they were with. But in the meantime, no matter how much struggle they go through and how poverty stricken they might be, or how much they struggle with family, no matter what, they are mothers, and they have brought beautiful children into this world. And so I commend every single mother out there that has made the jump to become a mom, whether it was by decision or not. What still comes down to is, if you're even making the attempt of trying to be a good mom for your kids and providing for them and giving them love, that's one of the biggest accomplishments you'll make more than anything else in your lifetime. Do you understand that? Men don't have that opportunity. You get to bring life into this world. And if those young men and women that you bring up, no matter how you raise them, if they become pillars of society, they become to help further the growth of this world and society in general, God bless you. So important for that. And so I think that's important to make that point and be distinctive about that. But here we are. People are just at a point where it's unfortunate to see that they're stuck at this point. That there's some thought process that women are given a bad rap because of a lot of extraneous circumstances. Men need to be much more knowledgeable about the psychology of women, how women think, how women are raised. You find out the right questions. You find out the background on the woman that you're interested in, and look past the beautiful exterior of that woman that makes her beautiful, that makes you attracted to her. You got to look more inside of her. Every guy needs to learn and do that. Okay? And remember, if there's nothing there, if a woman is just beautiful and just vain, and there's nothing more she could contribute because her disagreement or arguments are wrong, and she can't listen to any other opinion, and she is going to base herself on her feelings and her facts and her own personal experiences because she feels like she's more important, or she feels like she matters, and that everything evolves and circles around her. Like she is the star of her own picture, of her own movie. I got that. But when women are just, if they're going to be delusional, then hopefully they will have their beauty and their youth some way, somehow help them find a way to learn from the mistakes or learn from someone that will help them in the long run. That's a crapshoot. There's not a great percentage of men out there that'll do that are willing to be the successful, 666 model that all these women are now striving to look for. Like, how many of those guys, for them, are just vain and they offer nothing else? They have their own bad opinions. They have their own, shallowness. There's no depth to some people. And if there's no depth at all, something's wrong there. And those are the women you have to avoid. You want to hook up with a girl who's shallow and just beautiful? Okay. But you know what? Do what you're going to do and let her go peacefully. Okay? Don't harm her. Don't mess with her head. And if you decide to go and hook up and she gets attached to you and then you need to break it off hard, make her feel the suffering so she never goes back to you. It becomes needy with you. Sever it like an artery. You need to cut that off for the good of the woman. Okay? And guys, the other thing too, don't settle. Don't settle for just a beautiful woman just because she's beautiful. No, you need to respect yourself more. Men and women need to respect themselves more. There's more than just beauty. There's more than just, what they bring to the table. Who they are and what they're all about means more than anything. Why do you think people want to get married? That's what's important to them. Because the beauty will fade away. The status will fade away too. It just does. But people don't understand that part. And so another dating relationship coach, Sammy Wonder, says that the app Tinder has positively changed the way we date because of the sheer volume of people, meaning you can find what you're looking for quickly. No, you can find, but you're not going to discover unless you fit this certain demographic. And for Tinder, it absolutely fits people who are shallow and are vain and only vanity and status, and that's it. And that's what it comes down to. So they think Tinder's going to be so much good for that. It's not. And somebody else here, a psychologist, Barry Schwartz, talks about how people jump on the Tinder or other dating apps and they believe they have thousands or hundreds of thousands or millions of potential options. But when they're able to make one choice, there's less satisfaction with that choice. It makes it more disposable. Yeah. We're not just used to juggling, 10 to 15 to 20 different messages and remembering what people were saying. Why do you think people like to text in the first place? Because God forbid you're on a phone call and then you forget everything that person said to you about them. You want it on text you can document. Okay? That's why texting's such a thing. It's like proof of relationship or proof of anything that can be held against you. Or anything that you don't know about somebody, you can just scroll back. I know because I do it. And then there's another person that asks in here, Sammy Wonder, that also says the downside, as that there's a double-edged sword because it can lead people, quote, to be non-committal because you always feel like you can have it better. And reducing dating to looks is another thing about this. There's a crisis in self-esteem that's been brought here. And according to research by one of these dating experts, that between 90 to 97% of the decision to match someone is based purely on their photos. So if you're thinking about your photos, you're not being matched, you're not having people swipe next to you, that begins to take a toll on your self-esteem. And realize that part. I mean, look, it's doing mental damage, emotional damage to young women out here and to guys. This is not helping. And you know how many times I've heard from girls that I've talked to, and, my own research of those that if they did get caught up into a pattern of being abused emotionally, physically, and sexually, you know what app they would continue to go to meet people, to meet men or women? Tinder. Okay? Tinder is a gateway to bad dating, to hookup culture, and to ultimately some people, not being treated right. If it's only just physical attraction. And even one person says in here that photos diminishes all the other facets that go into physical attraction, whether that be scent, body movement, sound of voice. It definitely diminishes, if not destroys all the other aspects that make someone the beautiful character they are. Listen, if you went on a traditional date, back in the day when we did online dating, all right? For some of the older demographic of this audience, okay, say in your 30s and 40s, before online dating, or before the apps, all right? Before Tinder. When you met somebody on a profile and you saw their pictures, you saw their description, how often did you actually meet somebody in person and they look better than you thought? When you have the perspective of seeing somebody in real life and they're dressed up and they're looking good just for you, they take all the effort. And then you meet that person and you talk to them and then you just bond. I can't tell you how many times the profile never matched the person. in good or bad ways. But I can tell you there were several times where I was more than impressed with a woman by her beauty, by her looks, by her personality, and by the depth of who she was, her character, when I met her in person. It just changed everything for me. Hell, there was one girl I met on Big and Beautiful, The Big and the Beautiful. And I remember after 1 year, and even if we did not work out, when I got to meet her in person, she was prettier than I thought. And she looked, even more appealing than I thought. But there were just things that did not make us compatible because no matter how much we talked, it was just finally accomplishing the fact of meeting in person after 1 year, almost to the day. Amazing. And then one of the person also makes a mention of that it's on us as humans to not blame that on the app or not blame it on technology. I'm not going to blame it on Tinder. I'm going to blame it on how you were raised. So we're talking about ethnicity as one of the characteristics we use to determine if we would match with someone. Well, the thing is, it's still a matter of your raising, no matter who you are. You're a product of your raising. And for those on Tinder that are on there, there's a reason why you're there. And there's a reason in a way that anybody that goes on online dating, you're damaged goods from the get-go. I know I am. And many other women that are on there are. How often do you see, guys, single women that you know? And you see them on the same apps. The same women. You'll see them on multiple apps. I can tell you this time around, I went on to OkCupid, Badoo, Tinder. Same thing. I saw some of the same women on there. Chronic. We're all in this bad cycle of just nothing going right. And then how do you find somebody that's really good when you're not meeting them in person? Which is honestly still the best way to meet somebody in person. But they're not. So anyway, one of the other stories I want to bring up, there's another story I wanted to bring up real quick about a dating app evangelist that wrote in The Guardian about how he's not even on Tinder anymore. He loved the freedom of online dating, but discovered meeting people is no guarantee of building a lasting connection. Right. He goes into a story. Despite what you may have been led to believe, people on dating apps are just like you and me. They just don't know you yet, which for me is a key part of their appeal. Who doesn't want to begin a romance as a mysterious stranger, somewhat gradually reveals their flaws rather than feeling the need to explain them away on the onset? Right? And then he brings up that dating apps enable the racist, misogynistic, superficial tendencies prevalent in society at large. And that there's nothing wrong with being indecisive, but it's important to be honest with people and yourself. Just because you can't get someone else doesn't mean you haven't found someone great. And there's a fine line between having the confidence not to settle and ghosting, flaking, benching, breadcrumbing, and just plain old treating people like shit just because you can. If you want to know any of those terms, I've talked about many of those on my YouTube channel. Just look for Depraved and Debaucherous. You'll find all those episodes there. And if you need a link to it, just go to the website, ddradio.live. So that's the points he brought here. Now, part of the thing that's also brought up as well, which is said to be one of the excuses as to why Tinder is such a bad place and why men are in such a bad spot. Well, like I said, it's toxic femininity and masculinity. It's both toxic. Let's just call it what it is. Toxic masculinity. I took this from a collegiate article, a student news site called the Los Medanos College Experience. Michael Benedian, as an editor-in-chief, wrote a story about toxic masculinity being a rising issue. And so he brings up the fact of the idea of becoming an alpha male. And steps have been taken to curb the growth. There's no stopping this movement. It's terrifying to see it's happening. Now, before guys get triggered on the idea of toxic masculinity, you need to realize that the whole alpha male thing is being misconstrued. Listen, alpha male these days is being redefined. Because there are definitely those that have the red pill alpha kind of mentality that it's success-driven, entrepreneur-driven, that your success will bring you the benefits of the success, which would be, yielding women, beautiful women, to be closer to you. But even then, that's just the hookup. And remember that. If you want to be, an upstanding citizen and look for someone that's going to be, a quality man or woman in your life, then it doesn't always matter about, your looks, your status. and what you bring to the table. Because there have been enough people that are flawed themselves that money doesn't matter as much as love. Love means more than money. Because honestly, people are, how many people have you seen out there? I mean, what's interesting to me is that, I see homeless people down here in South Florida on a regular basis now. And there are couples together. They still have love for each other, even though they're on the street and they're on separate sides of the street, peddling for money, panhandling, because it's just where they are. Love has no income, no level of income, no bank account, none of that. So I'm not saying anything wrong about guys being successful in entrepreneurship and being, making yourself physically better shape. Yeah. Take care of your health. Make sure you get ahead in life. Make something of yourself. That's exactly what that mentality says. And I agree with all that wholeheartedly. So in the story he talks about now, there are different interpretations of the term alpha male, and it's usually a level of dominance exhibited by males. While some interpretations are harmless, the idea that the dominant man who takes the lead gets all the ladies is damaging not only to women, but young men also. Well, the thing is, we shouldn't have to worry about the fact that we want to get all the women. No, I want one woman at a time that I can be happy with, whether it's just a hookup, whether it's a friends with benefits, or it's a relationship, or it's marriage. Just like that. It would be nice just to have that. Like even when I did, try to court multiple women like in a stable, I might have done that, but the truth was I wasn't good enough to have myself feeling, satisfied sexually or emotionally at all. I just still felt alone. So it didn't make a difference to me. But at that time, I was trying to overcome the fact that I was chasing women for so long, trying to be the nice guy, and it didn't work. So being the asshole did work. But I also got nowhere from that. And in my 40s, I just gave up on it. There are many teens and young men who look at the figures of masculinity for guidance, and while it's not inherently a bad thing, there are many men that should not be looked up to. Of course, they bring up Andrew Tate. I've already talked about this over on previous episodes. 2 weeks ago, I specifically talked about Andrew Tate. I don't need to go into that detail. I know that's just going to start up a firestorm. I'm not worry about that. For what it's worth, he says, trying to prove your masculinity through dominance and fear has just the opposite effect. It makes more people avoid you. People don't just befriend you or exert a certain aura. They befriend you based on your character. Someone who's more accepting of others is more likely to be surrounded with people than those who reject others that don't fit the standard. See, the other thing too is that with people that are successful and they, have a certain stance of things and how they have a dominance, that's good for business. That's good for persuasion. But ultimately, it's not necessarily, you have to have the compassionate, the other sympathetic side. You have to have a side that's compassionate along with everything else. Because the best, most successful men out there also have a heart, also have compassion. They can cry if something tragic happens to them. Okay, if a loved one dies, yeah, someone's going to, it's a healthy thing for a man to cry. That happens. Okay? For us to be in love, men can be in love and we can feel love. I don't know what that's like. But man, I'd love to know what that feels like someday, sometime. So that's the show for tonight. I ran through this quick. I didn't realize I got the 30 minutes so fast, but hey, I enjoy this. I hope you do. I hope you're getting something out of this, okay? I'll get this pushed around through social media. I hope some people will get this message. And if you hear this message yourself, please share this with others. By all means, please share this with others. I want other people's opinion. And for people that would probably disagree with me, I want to hear them too. Listen, I'm not looking to go ahead and expect anybody to debate me, and honestly have a nice, cordial debate. People are going to have their opinions and they're just going to think whatever they're going to think of me anyway. And that's fine. I got a thick skin. I've been doing radio for 28 years now. Radio, you're supposed to know if you're going to have your voice out there, you're prone to criticism. Okay. Radio is a cruel mistress. It also doesn't pay more than enough. Even podcasting for that level. So anyway, I'm going to leave it there. Thanks for listening in. Finding the show as you always do. Website is ddradio.live. Every time I have a new episode out, 3 times a week. Okay, the audio comes out Monday, Wednesday, and Fridays. And the video portions are out Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesdays. So look for all that. Thanks for listening in. And remember, it's okay for all of us to be a little depraved and debaucherous.